Okay, so picture this Jamaica, right? Sun, sand, gorgeous beaches. But what probably doesn't spring to mind is like a legal battleground over infidelity.
Yeah, not exactly the first thing you think of on vacation.
Right. But it's true, there's this whole booming private investigation scene there, and it's totally clashing with these new privacy laws they've got.
Really interesting, actually.
So get this, these investigators, they're making bank, like some of them are pulling in $1,000 a week, all to catch cheaters. But the thing is, a lot of what they're doing might actually be illegal now.
Yeah, it's a real legal gray area that's popped up.
Totally. And that's what we're diving into today. It's Jamaica's Data Protection Act of 2020. We're talking hidden cameras, GPS trackers, all that sneaky stuff. So if you're fascinated by like the intersection of technology, privacy, and the law, well, you're in the right place.
It's a really fascinating case study because what seems like a personal issue like infidelity
Mhm.
has blown up into this much bigger conversation about privacy in the digital age.
Totally. So let's set the scene a little bit. We've got Jamaica, beautiful place to have an affair, I guess, and you've got folks worried their partners might be cheating. So they hire these PIs, these private investigators, to get the dirt. But then, boom, the Data Protection Act comes in. Like, what does that actually mean for all this undercover work? What are the rules?
So this act, it's essentially Jamaica's privacy shield, and it's pretty strong. It basically sets really strict rules about how personal data can and can't be collected, how it's processed, who it can be shared with, all of that.
Makes sense.
And it covers everything. Like we're talking from how they get the data in the first place to even just like mentioning someone's name. It's that in depth.
Wow.
Yeah. And the sections that are really relevant here, especially with these investigators, are sections 21 and 23. They basically lay out that getting info through things like hidden cameras, tracking someone with a GPS without their knowledge, all those classic spy tactics, without
Yeah.
consent, it's a huge no-go.
Okay, so to be clear, someone's on vacation, let's say in Montego Bay, and their partner back home thinks, something's fishy. They call up a PI, the PI goes full on James Bond, and suddenly they're the one in trouble.
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow, okay, this is already getting juicy.
Oh, we're not talking like a slap on the wrist here either.
Hmm.
No, no, no. These investigators, they can be hit with massive fines. Like, we're talking millions of Jamaican dollars.
What?
Yeah. And even jail time if they're really breaking these rules.
Okay, so Jamaica means business. This isn't some tourist trap law. They're serious.
Oh, they are serious. This is a new law, and they are enforcing it.
Okay, so let's say, just for argument's sake, that one of these PIs, they find some loophole, right? They manage to collect information legally. What then? Can they at least share that with their client who's like dying to know?
See, that's where it gets even trickier, because now Section 61 of the Act comes into play.
Oh boy, another section.
Right. This thing is airtight. But basically, that section says they can't just share personal data willy-nilly, even if they collected it legally.
So even if the PI somehow convinced someone to wear a wire, which, let's be honest, not happening, but even then, they still couldn't share that recording without that person's permission.
Exactly. It shows how much emphasis they put on individual privacy in this new law.
Wild. So these investigators really are walking a tightrope if they're trying to operate the way they used to. But this isn't just some abstract legal thing, right? This is actually happening. Didn't we see a similar situation play out in the UK a few years back?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Operation Motorman.
Right. What was that all about again?
So in the UK, they had a bunch of private investigators get caught, like red-handed, accessing all this personal data illegally, for tabloid scandals and stuff. Big no-no.
Juicy, but illegal.
Right. And it completely blew up in their faces. Like, don't do this. It's a cautionary tale for sure.
Wow, I bet. It makes you wonder, do these investigators in Jamaica know? Like, do they realize the risks? Or are they so focused on, catching cheaters that they're not thinking about the legal trouble?
I mean, that's the question, right?
Yeah.
And it goes even further, too, because it's not just about the investigators themselves. What about the clients, the ones hiring them?
Oh, yeah, good point.
They're often so caught up in their own suspicions, maybe heartbroken, that they don't stop to think about the ethics of it all
Yeah.
or the legal ramifications.
Right, right. It's like, on the one hand, you're worried your partner's cheating, which is already a lot to deal with. And then on top of that, you're thinking about hiring someone who might be using, like, Shady tactics, legally and morally. It's got to be a tough spot to be in.
It is, definitely. It's like, how far is too far?
Yeah.
When you're so suspicious that you'd risk breaking the law just to see if your suspicions are right, that's kind of crossing the line. No,
Yeah.
the thorny issue, for sure.
No kidding. Makes you wonder, like, what's going through people's minds? Is it about wanting to know the truth, or is it more about control?
Right. It's that age-old dilemma. And I think with this new Data Protection Act, Jamaica's basically taking a stand. It's
Yeah.
like they're saying, look, we're not going to be a place where people can just trample on someone's privacy without consequences.
Which is huge, because we know this kind of thing, it happens everywhere. And the
Mhm.
technology to do it is only getting more advanced.
Exactly. And it's not even just about infidelity, right?
That's true.
This law, it has implications for like all sorts of data collection. We're talking about businesses, marketing, even healthcare.
It's about protecting everyone.
Exactly. It's about saying that personal information matters,
Right.
that your privacy matters, which in this day and age, with all the data flying around, it's more important than ever.
For sure. Well, I think we've given everyone a lot to think about today. Jamaica, man. Who knew it was such a hotbed for privacy law?
Right. It just goes to show that these issues, they're everywhere.
They are. And as technology keeps evolving, figuring out how to balance security, trust, privacy, all of that,
Right.
well, it's only going to get more complicated.
It is, no doubt about it.
Well, on that note, to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you learned something new, maybe had your mind blown a little bit. And hey, next time you're thinking about handing your smartwatch to a PI, maybe think twice, okay? Until next time, stay curious.